Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted. I also love it if you leave a comment. It's fun to hear what you think. So, I've made a video about stackable rings a while back, and I thought maybe let's revisit that, but with a variation. So these ones are going to have stones, and they're also going to be abstract shapes. So I'm basically forming each one after I make the previous one so that it kind of fits up against the previous one. And so you can wear 1, 2, 3, 4, depending upon however many you make, based on what your particular mood is for that day. So I picked out 3 different stones for these. I picked out a little moonstone cabochon, a faceted synthetic blue spinel, and a faceted lead crystal that's kind of a pretty emerald green. I think that'll make for a pretty cool combination for this set. We'll see how it turns out. So before we get started though, I need to thank some groups of people. The first group is my patrons over on Patreon. I have a new one, Alan M. Thanks for signing up. I appreciate it. I hope, Alan, that you find, as I have, that the group over there is a super nice group with lots of knowledge, and they're willing to share their knowledge with you. So enjoy it, and thank you to all of you patrons who've been there for a while. I really appreciate your support. The other group of people are my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 12,400, which is awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you also for the really nice comments. Sometimes they're really moving and help to keep me going when I'm tired or don't feel like doing this. So thanks for that. I also appreciate the financial contributions like the Buy Me a Coffee and the Super Thanks. Those things really help with the cost of materials. They've gone up quite a bit lately, so thanks for that. All right, well, let's get started on these stacker rings. These are a couple of my design idea books. This is the one I'm almost filled up now. I use them anymore to sketch out my ideas in advance, and I really feel like it helps me to get a better outcome if I have kind of a plan going into what I'm going to do. So if you're interested, these are available in my merch store. There's also a couple of new ones that have conversion charts on the back. This one here has fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeters, so it's kind of handy if you're I've been trying to use millimeters when I talk most of the time because I think that's a more efficient and logical method, but if I forget sometimes and say something, it's kind of nice to have an easy way to convert. There's also one that goes from American wire gauge to millimeters, because I know a lot of people overseas don't use wire gauge like we do here in the US. So check those out, get yourself a nice one, and let's take a look at what I find out today. So here's the 3 stones I picked. They're all pretty much about 5 millimeter stones. Like I said, this one is a, let's see if we can get this one's a synthetic blue spinel, very sparkly, nice. This one I believe is a lead crystal that's been cut. That's a green lead crystal. And then I can get this one. This is I did one cabochon because I wanted to show that you could do cabochons or faceted stones. Or you could probably do these with no stones at all, or with some kind of decoration or something. But these are going to be kind of straightforward and basic. But there's lots of variations you could do to add to them, texturing them and things like that. So. But just a little simple moonstone. So as often happens, my original plan, I was thinking I was going to make 3 identical things with stones that fit together somehow, and I kind of got sidetracked and started going down a different path, and that's okay. Another time I'll come back and we'll do something that's more symmetrical, but I was liking how these were kind of fitting together as I was shaping them, and I did 2 of them in advance just to get an idea how I was going to make it work, and we'll do this last one and I'll show you how I did the first 2 as well. But we'll make a bezel first, and then I'm using 14 gauge round wire, and I did one and I made it so that it came straight out of the side, the band came straight out of the side of the bezel that I made, and then in order to accommodate another stone that could sit kind of close to it when we stack them, I made it have a band coming out to the side a little bit like that, and then we shaped it into a band shape. And then for the second one, I tried to adapt the shape of the band to fit that as well. So the third one we're going to have to try and do do it so it adapts to the pre-existing curves of the first two. And I think I did the green one to start with, and then the moonstone, and then for this last one we'll do that blue spinel here. So to start with, let me show you the first two that I did. I have them in the pickle. Okay, since two of them are faceted stones, I made a little step bezel for the first one anyway. We'll do one for the second one in a minute, but so that'll fit right in there. But do you see how I made a little swirl off to the side there like that, in order that I can have a second bezel sitting in there? So in order to make that happen, where these would fit together, I also had to create a little bend on this side of this one. So this one goes straight out of this side and bends around there. Now for the third one, this is going to have this moonstone in it. That'll be right there. And then I think for the last one, I think I'm going to put him probably over here. I thought about doing it here, but I think it looked better if the moonstone's in the middle with the green and blue on either side. So we'll make a bezel for that guy, and then we'll make a 14 gauge band. I sized them to be about a size 8, which came out to be about 60 millimeters. As far as gauges go, the bezel that I'm using is 28 gauge, which comes out to be about 0.32 millimeters thick. It's also 4.76 millimeters tall, although I cut it drastically down shortness-wise. So if you're in the U.S., it's 3/16 inch high, but you don't need that tall of bezel. You can cut it quite a bit further down. You could probably use 1/8 inch or something like that if you wanted to. So, and then for the inside layer for the step, I use some 18 gauge wire, which I think is 1.02 millimeters if I remember right. I'll double check that for the video. But so let's make a bezel first. I'm going to put those back in there so I don't lose them. And let's get this blue spinel out. So vivid colored. Alright, where did I put my bezel? There it is. So this is pretty thin bezel, and I wanted it for this because these are going to be kind of small and dainty. You could use a different thickness if you wanted to, though. So I'm just going to file that head flat. If you've never been to my channel before, I use hard silver sheet solder almost exclusively, with a few exceptions now and again. And I use a liquid flux that I dribble on or spray on. My torch that I use is a Smith acetylene air torch called the Smith Silversmith, and it's a great torch. I really like it. The size tip that I use is a number 1. I get asked that quite frequently. And I really don't change that much unless I'm melting something, then I'll put a number 3 on there, like casting an ingot or something. Also, if you're new, I just released my ebook, which is a guide to all of the videos from 2023. It includes a picture of the original sketch that I drew, a picture of the final product or products if it's a multi-product or project video, a list of materials you need to make it, and my subjective evaluation of what difficulty level it is, as well as some individual annotations I made about each video. Things like, if I was to do it differently next time, what would I change? Or this particular aspect was hard to do, or I thought of a better way to do it, you know, afterwards, or whatever. So there's some notes that go along with each video. And then the last thing is there's a link right to the video itself. So, and as I put out 3 videos per week all through 2023. There's a lot of different project ideas in that ebook. So it's in an EPUB format, so you can use your e-reader generally. I'm not sure if the Kindle app works or not. I haven't tried it on that one, but it works great in Apple Books, or Google Books works well too, from what I've been told. But most any ebook reader should work, I would think. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link up there for you. You can download that. And thank you to all the people who've already downloaded it. I really appreciate that. It puts an awful lot of projects right at your fingertips. So I think it's a useful tool in that sense. I know when I was first starting out, it was sometimes you learn how to make a few things and you're not quite sure where to go from there. So sometimes it's nice to have a bunch of ready-made projects to try to kind of expand your skills, and also, you know, just to do something out of the box that you wouldn't normally make. So it's been super useful for me to do this channel, because, you know, for 25 odd years I didn't make much different stuff. I just kind of made variations of the same thing. So doing this kind of forced me to step outside of my own comfort zone and start to make some really interesting things. And because of that, I've gotten much better over the past few years, I think. All right. Put a couple of pieces on there. Make sure I have my torch turned on. I'm afraid on the last video I accidentally dropped a dad joke. I will try to avoid having that happen during this video. I apologize to my viewers for that. Okay. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes reshaping this with my chain nose pliers. Let's go. If you want to, I don't think I said this already, but if you want to see that other video about stackable rings that seemed pretty popular, I'll put a link up there for it. You should check it out. It's got some simple stackables that make for great sellers at fairs and things. I think the way I'm doing these ones, they're going to be less, you know, you have a pile of them and people can pick them, because these were kind of custom designed to match each other a little bit. So next time I do one, I'll do one with stones that has identical shape so they fit together. I'll have to figure out a good way to do that. Looks like size-wise we're doing okay. After I finish getting this fine-tuned, then we'll cut some pieces of 18 gauge round wire, or 1.02 millimeters wire, round wire, and create a little step for the girdle of the stone to sit on, since we're doing a faceted stone here. This little piece of scrap 18 just laying around, this will work. It's a little mangled, but we'll just straighten it back out. Put the stone back over here so I don't lose track of it. Alright. You can use a bail making pliers or round nose pliers or bezel mandrel or whatever to make these little jump rings. Whatever works best for you. I usually cut them a little bit too big and then snip out pieces until they fit in there perfectly. Just a little bit too big. If you have any ideas for videos, I always appreciate input. I had a couple of videos over the past 2 weeks just kind of tank, and I didn't expect that because that doesn't happen that often. But I do want to try and create things that you like, so if there's particular things you want to see, let me know. If I know how to do it, or if I can learn how to do it, I'll try to do a video about it. One thing I keep, people keep asking me for a flush setting video, and I haven't done it. I haven't really mastered that yet. I've done it once, successfully. And so I need to practice it a little bit more before I can really pass on any wisdom about it to you. That's pretty nice and snug, so that's good. Now I'm going to make a second one to elevate it a little bit. Push this first one out and see how this one fits. That's fine. So I'm going to put the tightest one on the bottom. This one's just slightly looser. Push them in there. Big thing about making these little step bezels like this, but this way, there's a lot of different ways to make step bezels, and this is just kind of what I usually do. The thing that you want to do is make sure your little jump rings don't have any waviness to them, or they're not so tight that they're trying to ride up a little bit because they barely fit. You want to make sure they fit in there snugly, but not so tight that they're trying to ride up. So the easiest way to solder them in, just put them in a small configuration like that. I'll flux this, then we'll set it right on top of there, and we'll heat the whole thing till it flows up in there. I remember when I first started this, how bezels seemed like took me forever to make. But after you've made 30 or 40 of them, they start to get pretty easy and routine. So don't give up before you've made at least that many. And then don't give up, because you'll get there. I periodically think about how many different pieces of jewelry I've made over the years that are out there. Okay, now that that's in there, I'm just going to file it flat. Last year at one of the shows I did locally, somebody walked by and I recognized a ring that I'd made in a style that I used to make a lot. So it must have been right about the time that Larimar first showed up on the market, because it was Larimar. And that was popular and has continued to be popular ever since. But I said, hi, I said, I recognize that ring. And she came over, and it was actually somebody who I sold some jewelry to in an in-service meeting in the 90s, back when I was teaching school. And she still wore it. She still loved it. Okay, so I got that now. Now, I have this little strip of tag board that I wrapped around the mandrel to get a size idea. Like I said, I was kind of shooting for a size 8 or thereabouts. So I'm going to cut the end off of this piece of 14 gauge round. So we're starting with a relatively flat end. Then I'll file both ends flat. And I think if I can find my masking tape, I'm going to tape these together so they don't move around, so I can get a good idea of how to shape this other one. Pops up about right there. So I think I kind of have one. Let's start by having it come straight out of kind of off the edge there, maybe. So we need to file this. That's going to go right about here. We want this to be kind of up in there. So I'm going to need to file a little bit of an angle on it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but let's position this kind of where I want it. Like that. So if we have this soldered kind of like that. The trick sometimes is getting the wire to sit how you want it to when you got an angle filed on it. One thing you can do is, once you have it pretty flat in this dimension, it's kind of going like this right now on the end. Bend it so it can't rotate either way like that. It'll move less. So let's butt him over here. Make sure it's sitting flat, or pretty close. That looks all right. Now, I do something called pick soldering all the time, or most of the time, and that's where I pick up a little bit of solder on the end of the pick, heat the piece up to the soldering temperature after it's all fluxed and everything, and then while I'm still heating it, touch the bit of solder that I have on the end of the pick right to that spot, and it jumps right on there. And that's a super efficient way of getting exactly how much solder you want in a particular spot, right in that spot. So it's a good skill to have, and if you're interested in learning how to do that, I have a video about it right up there. So let's put some of these pieces of solder here, and we'll get everything fluxed again. so we'll just pick that up right there. It's on the end of this pick. The trick to really the trick to doing it is don't stick it in there until it's time. Oops, I dropped the ball. Chad dropped the ball. Oh God, I just did the dad joke again. Or a dad joke. There we go. See, I jumped the gun a little bit and I had to hold it in there for a minute. So it's best if you time it just right. And with a little practice you get to where you almost always do it just about right. I do get a little impatient sometimes. Okay, so one thing I'm going to start with, I'm going to try and get this to bend a little bit, like drastically right there to start. And then, let's see, I want it to go. I have to do a little bit of manual shaping. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, so like that maybe. That looks pretty good, I think. What do you think? Well, let's stick with our original plan. We can always make another one at some other point. Or you could make multiple different ones, I suppose. You know, like have 5 different ones, and 2 of them you can swap out or something. Generally, if you're going to have multiple stones on something, odd numbers look better. So, probably just going to do the 3 today. That looks pretty good. I'm going to try and make a mark where these 2 meet. This is where it would be handy to have like a prehensile tail or something. I'm always one hand short of stuff to hold things with, so that looks about right. So, and then we got to also think about where it's going to reattach on this. So if this is sitting, see, again, I could use a 3rd hand there. I'm going to have this one kind of come back over here. Maybe reattach about like that. We'll see once we get it kind of rounded out and shaped that way. So. So right now, also I got to figure out, oops, no wonder it looks weird. I had it backwards. So it looks like it's going to be kind of curving around the other one to get there, to where it reattaches. So I'm going to bend it back that way a little bit, so it kind of curves that way. And then I'm going to file it so that it meets up with the bezel nicely. So let's let me use one of these magnesia blocks so nothing moves around too much on me. So I can position things so they can't really drop anywhere. That's a good spot probably. And I can just solder it right there. And then we'll shape it round and then we'll see if we can get it to fit up against there. Hopefully we can. I have not done anything exactly like this before, so this is kind of an experiment. So I did 2 of them off camera. So I was trying to see how that would work. But sometimes it's kind of fun to bring you along when I'm trying to figure things out. make this a little bit more straight up and down. So if we got this curve nice like that, this has got to come straighter that way, I think. So kind of like that. Have this start bending right kind of about right there, kind of dipping in the hair and then curving back out to the right there. So we need to make kind of a slight curve on that. It kind of looks like that then. I suppose you could make, you know, like I said, I probably wouldn't make an even number, but you could make an odd number, like 5 of them if you wanted to. It's not getting incredibly bulky sideways wise, although you wouldn't want to probably keep going down the line here because it'll start to work its way too far down the side of the finger. So for the next one over, you might do another one kind of towards the middle here or something. But I like making kind of wavy abstract things, so I think this is kind of a fun project. And it gives you a little puzzle to figure out when you're getting ready to put them on in the morning. So you got to figure out how to situate them right. So, all right, I'll do a little more fine tuning, and then we'll set some stones at the end, and then we'll take a look at the final product. All right, so I got the first 2 stones set on these ones. And I kept one to show you. So, filed down the top of the bezel to the height I wanted it to be. And a lot of people use different tools for this, but I'm going to use the flat side of my chain nose pliers here. We're just going to kind of push it straight in to start with. You just want to leave enough to get just a little bit over the girdle of the stone. Once you've got it laid down as tight as you can, I'm going to use the rounded, smooth outer part of this to kind of burnish that top edge. Using a lot of pressure to smooth it out. Okay, I'll probably do a little bit of cleanup at the end with my rotary tool and a little kind of fine blue wheel. That's kind of what I was going for. Multiple stones on different bands that you can stack. You could wear just a couple of them if you wanted to. Those 2. I suppose you could even do these 2. You can figure out a way where they'll fit together nicely. Just like that. That looks pretty cool like that too. Even though they don't fit nicely together like that, it still looks pretty nice. So you have a lot of options, I think, with this one. So that was my intended configuration. So, all right, well, I'll take some better pictures and put them at the end. All right, well, that was some stackable rings with stones. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. I'd also love it if you took a moment and checked out some other videos on my channel. I have well over 330 videos now, which kind of blows me away too. But there's almost certainly something else you'll like here. There's material that's suitable for beginners, as well as people who are significantly more advanced than that, I think. So Check it out, watch a few more, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And don't forget to check out the video description down below. There's some important links down there, like the link to my ebook that I talked about earlier that I just finished. I think that's a great resource. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea books, or check out my Patreon link. That's you want to find out more about that community. It's a really great place over there. There's also a link to Pepe Tools, which I am an affiliate of, and if you click on that link and buy something within 3 days, I think it is, I get credit for that, and then it helps me and it helps Pepe Tools. So check that out. They have a great selection. All right, well, thanks for watching the video. Take care. Happy silversmithing.